They say money is the root of all evil, and yet we're needing more and more of this stuff every single year to just get by comfortably. So in this video, I'm going to share what my salary is as a UK doctor in training and how I double it every single month, and you can too. My name's Sarah, if you don't know me. I am a doctor working in Northwest London, and I make videos about health, medicine, all things related. So hit the sub button so you can stay in the loop, and make sure you hit the notification bell. Put that to all as well. I'll be giving you lots of good stuff in this video. There'll be lots of numbers. It'll be kind of UK based mainly. So in the international group, it may not be directly relevant to you, but you could be interested to know how medicine works in another country. And you never know, you might discover something that you can apply to your area as well. I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's get right into the numbers. So last month, I actually earned £4,600 pre-tax. I had around £1,400 of deductions. This includes national insurance, income tax, as well as student loan contributions. So after all of those deductions, I went home with £3,143 for the month. I do not pay into a pension, and the reasons why I will come on to later in this video when we talk about how I double what I earn from my salary. So let's think about that for a moment. To get to the position I am now, obviously you need to do college, and you also need to do university, which is 5 to 6 years, and 2 years after university, and then I am in GPST1, which is the first year of GP specialty training. So it's taken quite some time to get to where I am. Now, let's think about how much it costs to live where I am here. So the average person in London who's single without rent spends £800 per month. I'll tell you that that's a very difficult price to keep to, especially now that things are opening up. Assuming that you spend money on a decent place to live, you're looking at around £1,000 per month, including bills. And so you're looking at around an £1,800 expenditure per year. Not everyone wants to live in rented accommodation forever. We all want our own place to call our home, and realistically in London you're looking at around £500,000 to buy somewhere decent. You could get a flat for less than that in an area that's quite far out from central, but if you know about the Grenfell disaster, then people are really avoiding buying flats now, since the fire regulations have increased, which means that the service charges for homeowners in flat buildings have absolutely skyrocketed in the last few months. There have been some serious victims of this, and so I really hope that some government support comes in for them soon. So let's assume that someone's going for a house that's freehold, and that way you cannot really have, restrictions or extra charges imposed by anyone else, and you're way more in control of your destiny. So in that case, you need a £50,000 deposit, and you also will then need solicitor's fees, stamp duty, and money to put down for furniture, redecorations, and other things like that. So let's assume, I like to always be positive, so best case scenario, you're looking at £60,000 to £65,000 to complete on a £500,000 house. Thankfully, the stamp duty regulations in the UK mean that you do not have to pay as a first-time buyer any stamp duty on a house that's worth £500,000. These regulations are changing all the time, and so in the future that may go up significantly. So let's assume best case scenario we're saving 1,200 of these pounds every single month. You are looking then at around 5 to 6 years at least of my salary. So after university, probably about 7 years altogether. Yes, your salary goes up massively as a consultant when you qualify. If you do GP training, that's in 3 years after foundation, and if you do surgery or medical specialty, that turns to 6 to 8 years after foundation training. So the more of a long training path you take, probably the longer it will take you to actually get on the property ladder. This hasn't been the case for all of history. Our generation, realistically, most of you who are watching this are 30 or less. So our generation has been absolutely shafted by the economy. Now it's about 7 to 8 times salary, what the house prices are. Well, back in the 1980s, you were looking at 3 to 4 times salary, and that would make saving up enough dosh for a mortgage very, very easy. That is not the case anymore. So we're left with a few different solutions, and that is, you can either wait until you just accumulate enough, or you can rely on the government to increase the wages, which is probably not going to happen anytime soon. As we've seen, the independent body that reviews NHS wages actually suggested a 15% increase in pay for NHS staff, and the government have offered now about 3% increase in pay, which is almost a slap in the face after a pandemic like that. So we come to option 3, which is take matters into your own hands. Now, I am a very, very firm believer of option 3. The reason is, there's an old quote which says that if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. What does that even mean? Well, basically, you need to create some kind of direction. Otherwise, someone else will create your life's direction for you. That someone else, if you're a doctor, is quite frankly the hospital. People don't like to talk about chasing money because they think that it's superficial. They think that, why do I need all of these designer clothes and all of these bags, or a fancy car, driving a Lamborghini or some, Tesla Roadster? I don't need any of those things. And so trying to make extra cash outside of my work is not great. It's a superficial endeavor. But let's think about this for a second. We spend at least 40 to 48 hours on average per week in work, and we work for money. So if we look at it, we're exchanging our time for money. That means that if we create money by any other means, then we are actually giving ourselves the most valuable and finite resource that we have back, which is time. In order for you to be able to spend time with your family, to be able to travel, to be able to do things that matter, you need another income source other than that from medicine. Lots of people do not know this, and that's mainly because doctors sometimes spend so much time looking after our patients that we actually forget to look after ourselves in the process. And that is bad for both us and the patients, because unhappy doctors make unhappy patients, and happy doctors make happy patients. So by creating another income stream for yourself and getting comfortable and taking the right amount of time off to be able to relax, unwind from the really difficult job that we've all chosen to go into, will ultimately benefit the people that we're here to serve, and that is the patients ultimately. So how do we do it? How do I do it? How should you do it? It's very difficult for me sitting in front of a camera in my room with, even though they are beautiful lights, to actually speak to you and give you a tailored plan for what you could be doing. That's because you could be sat in your room in the UK, or you could be sat in somewhere 6,000 miles away from me. But I'll give you some general principles, and that is that every single one of us has the ability to do something better than someone else because we have what's called an unfair advantage. My unfair advantage when I was growing up is the fact that my family were into property. My dad, he used to take me as a child into the flat that we bought, and I used to get the steamer out and strip the wallpaper, paint it, maybe do a little bit of plastering as well in the process. And you know, I thought it was great fun. I enjoyed it, and I knew that it was benefiting my dad. So I naturally learned the property trade, and so when I took a year out after my foundation years, I actually did something called locuming, which is an excellent way to boost your salary. Usually that doubles your income because you're paid on an hourly basis rather than a contracted basis. So I would be earning between 40 and 43 pounds per hour, and that equated to around 100,000 pounds in 1 year. So 6-figure salary, which meant I could save up a significant amount of money and buy a house in the north of England. I am living in London. Why did I buy a house in the north? Because buying a house in the north has such an improved yield compared to buying in London that you can actually pay off your mortgage if you decide to rent it, and make a profit after that. If you buy a house in London, your rental income only just pays off your mortgage. So with the money that I had saved up from my locum money, I bought a house, and then I started using it as an Airbnb. It's named the Safari House, your ultimate relaxation destination. I've absolutely filled it with plants like this, and I've designed it to kind of as best a standard as I possibly can. It's got a hot tub, those kinds of things. It took me a lot of work. I actually set it up when I was working in Brighton, and I was driving up and down from there very regularly. For me, that was kind of the natural path. I was interested in design. I had some experience in gaming, so I knew about like online systems and computers, so Airbnb came kind of naturally to me. There are some other things that I have done in the past that have been really beneficial. Amazon selling can make a significant amount of cash. You can also invest in either cryptocurrency or stock options, index funds. The CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, said that if he could go back and speak to his former self, he would have just invested his money in the S&P 500. So there's another interesting book which I've read, written by a guy named Robert Kiyosaki, called Rich Dad Poor Dad. You may have heard of it. Just to summarize quickly, he mentions in that book that he has a poor dad who is an academic, spent all of his time thirsty for knowledge, but that's scientific knowledge, and he only had his own home that he lived in as an asset for himself. He was always tired and he was always working, exchanging his time for money, and ultimately he made himself unhappy. He was a rich dad who left school at year 8 and decided that he would become financially literate, ended up becoming a millionaire, and created systems that worked for him rather than working for money. He mentions in that book, the rich don't work for money, the money works for the rich. And ultimately, that is the situation that you want to get yourself into if you don't want to be fully controlled by the workplace. That's a partial reason why I chose to do GP, because it's one of the only places where you're an actual independent practitioner and you're not fully reliant on a hospital's rota system or them calling you in on a weekend. that you've decided to do something with your 2-year-old child. I personally don't want to be missing big family events, birthdays, weddings, and I'm sure that you don't want to either. Ultimately, we only get one life, and family is extremely important to look after during that time. And so by doing this and creating that independence from your workplace, you can more effectively look after your family, yourself, and ultimately your patients. I hope this has been a really useful video for you guys. Something I'm so passionate about and I'm constantly working towards improving in myself, and so I wanted to share all of that with you. I'm going to drop a link in the description below to Robert Kiyosaki's book Rich Dad Poor Dad. I will highly recommend it. It will change your outlook and increase your financial literacy significantly. It's a good first book to start on your journey to financial independence. And if I did provide value to you with this video, please stick up that virtual thumb for me. It really helps with the algorithm. I provide this content for you for absolutely free, and I want it. The reason why is because I want as many people to see it as possible, so that they can benefit. So by hitting that virtual thumb up, that boosts me in the YouTube's algorithm and lets more people benefit from this information. This channel has been getting so much support from you guys, so thank you to each and every single one of you for that. We've been growing steadily, and as such, I was invited to do a guest post recently on moneymarshmallow.com on this exact topic. So if you want more details, then check that out on the description below. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you happiness and health, and I'll see you next week. Take care.